Gaming and BS, episode 322, coming to you Monday, December 14th, that's not the right date, December 21st, 2020. Welcome to Gaming and BS, a tabletop RPG podcast. I'm Sean.
And I'm Brett. Welcome to the show, folks. Welcome back. Glad everybody's on board. How the hell are you doing, Sean?
I'm doing well, Brett. How are you?
I'm recovering. My spine surgery for my neck hasn't been rescheduled yet. And so it's kind of nice because I can still lift heavy things, as in moving. All the heavy things I have to move. But it really sucks when you're moving heavy things, your right arm goes numb. You're like, oh, I can't feel this. Hope I'm not dropping anything because I can't hold it. Kind of a pain in the ass. And I'm sore and I'm tired. But the first quarter of the entire move is done. So
it's done, is it?
Yeah, so far so good. But one of the things that sucks just on a personal note is cramped into my gaming. You know, because last week we were supposed to have some gaming stuff with my home group, and I was going to do some stuff with the kids, but with the packing up and moving and everything, I couldn't make the show with you, and I didn't do much else. So, other than just moving. But tomorrow, my group is back on, and I'm going to be doing, Alpha's going to be running the Underground campaign again, so we'll be back on Zoom doing that tomorrow, so that'll be fun. And then the week after that, on Tuesday, I'm back on for Greyhawk. Blah, blah, blah. So we should be in good shape there. Did you get any gaming in while I was out, or?
I did a game on Saturday, Low Fantasy Gaming. It's we added a player to their game, Mr. Jason Weeb. Yeah, he's picking up our slack for us, so that's going to be better.
Does that give Hobbs an extra target? Somebody else he can go after? Another
I think
shield?
so. I think so, for sure.
Good.
Yeah.
He just doesn't focus on the Sean.
That's right.
So, let's see here. Anything else, man? Anything kind of cool or interesting for you, or no?
I start the Age of Rebellion campaign.
Yeah, you had said something to me. You got, like, your whole little handbook type of thing put together for the players?
I did get some of the documentation up and running for people to view, so I didn't want to get too crazy, but there are some things that I needed to note. And one of the big things, and I don't know if people have read it, which is fine, but if it falls to something like, hey, I expressed interest, how come I wasn't selected to play in that session? It stipulates in that document how I'm determining who gets to play.
Who plays, and wow.
I mean, if I get 10 folks and I've got 4 to 5 slots, I got to determine how that's done. And so it's going to be by Patreon, and then it's going to be by Patreon join date, or Patreon join date, Patreon.
You got all the rules. Are they posted in the forum? Yeah, out there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and then it's got some of the character kind of generation, like, what books are allowed.
No Jedis, stuff like that.
I had to put some code of conduct stuff out there in case we run into somebody and they, hey, how come you kicked me? Well, you're being disruptive. Well, what do you mean? And
what do you mean? You're a douche. That's your fucking problem. Get out of here.
This is kind of how I define disruptive, or, others may find disruptive. But, Foundry, I found a lot of data. I think I brought it up on the last episode to put into Foundry, which was going to take me months to do, and it took me 10 minutes, which is...
Well, that's a time saver. That's
a
good.
Lifesaver, yeah. So now I have to take the folks that want to play and their characters and put it into Foundry so we could use it as a tool.
So are you using Foundry simply... I guess... Let me step back. You going Theater of the Mind? You're going minis on a tabletop?
All I'm using Foundry for, not all I'm using it for, but it's... The die roller is a big one, which I've mentioned before. If there is a map, fine. Initiative would be another piece.
Light side, dark side tokens?
Light side, dark side tokens.
That was super helpful when you ran for us, or for me and Kevin and a few other folks. That was super helpful, just to visibly see where they were, who had how many. It was kind of a cool thing.
So I'm liking how it's working, and it should be a big help. And I may even use a module that does sound effects when certain, not just to set the ambiance, but if you shoot blaster and you roll your dice, it shoots blast. I could set the music to that event.
Don't bite off too much, man. You could get a little super noodly and then
pew pew pew.
Awesome.
Yeah. So I'm looking forward to it. I had to get it off the ground. I've been talking about it, and people are probably like, come on, man, what's going on?" So,
well, I'll tell you, man, I'm planning to use you as my scout team. So, whatever works for you, I'm probably going to do something similar once I get in the new house and I get settled, which I'm hoping to be February, where I can come and say, "All right, Brett's going to run a game," and similar type of go around. I want to learn from your mistakes and. Everyone will come and go, "My game, wow, Brett's game he's really got his shit together." And I like that Sean. That was really just kind of slapdash at the beginning. And
I don't know if you have that much to worry about.
But. It'll be fine. Let's see here. Oh, the Jerry Stefak Crawl for the Cure happened. And I believe they raised, $1,527 for the American Cancer Society. That's pretty cool. I know some BSers and a number of really cool, fine gamers were able to contribute to that, so that's really nice. That's very cool.
The other thing that I mentioned on the last episode, which Brett was not here, and we didn't release it as an audio version, but we gave the Exploring Eberron 2 copies away. One was to the Duke in Purple, and then one was to Gehrman Sanders, or Harriman. I'm sorry. He corrected me. Yeah. Harriman. So they both have copies of Exploring Eberron. Thanks for participating, everybody. But that's, I think, about it for...
That's it? No more news?
For announcements. Anything new for news. Oh, I didn't put it in the die roll, but we could mention it. The lawsuit that was...
Oh, the Margaret Weiss. The Dragonlance lawsuit.
Right. The Weiss-Hickman lawsuit is against Wizards of the Coast has been dismissed without prejudice. So,
Margaret Weiss's tweet after the fact was very upbeat.
Well, now the Dragonlance Canonical on Twitter. So, if everything Dragonlance, if you like Dragonlance, you've had to have heard of Dragonlance Nexus and the Dragonlance Canonical. But they have said that there's a big announcement coming, and that there was, I think, Joe Manganiello was statting out Draconians. He's
got to be. I mean, he ran
for 5e.
Yeah, he's a huge Dragonlance fan.
But I think they're equating that to the comicbook.com mentioned, like, hey, Wizards said that there would be 3 new settings coming out. Dragonlance might be one of them. I thought Margaret and Tracy were going to work on novels. I don't know.
We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
I think we've talked Dragonlance, before a little bit. I liked it. I have a fond affinity for it, right? It was fun and so on. But I tell you, man, though, from a world to adventure in, it just never really took off for me. My friends and I were all fans. Like in high school, we read the books, read the novels, and we consumed a ton of stuff for it. When the time came to sit down to play in a Dragonlance world, we kind of went, meh. It just didn't really sing for some reason.
There's something to be said about taking some bits and pieces from a lot of different campaign worlds and just doing a homebrew, but using all it. Like, okay, I'm going to put Draconians in this world. I'm going to use the map from this. I'm going to use magic technology like it is in Eberron. So there is no overland journey unless it's something where it's remote. Yes, they have airship and it's powered by elementals. Some of those things, and then just make it Sean world.
There's pieces of the Dragonlance world, the Draconians, the gods, how they're very interactive. There's some really cool bits and pieces, the setting, the events, and so forth.
The Knights of Solamnia.
There's some really fun stuff. The Dragonlances themselves, riding dragons. It's like really like big, high concept fantasy almost in a way. But my friends and I, it felt like when we sat down to play in the world, it often felt like we were poorly aping a bad pastiche, if you will, of the Dragonlance stories. Like we're like, oh, I want to do the thing that they did. There, you're flying a dragon. Neat. It didn't feel like we were discovering or finding in the way that, for whatever reason, Forgotten Realms captured us much better, and Greyhawk did. Where we felt that whatever happened, there were things that happened in Greyhawk or the Forgotten Realms, but they were very localized. It was big enough I could go somewhere else. Where Dragonlance, especially the first 6 books, is the whole goddamn world, right? You go across you go over everything, and it's earth shaking and earth shattering and so on and so forth. And like I said, when I do Middle Earth, when I run MERP, I like to do 4th Age, the ending of the 3rd Age, the dawn of the 4th Age. It's kind of like a cleanup effort. What's left? The dregs are still orcs, there's still trolls and ents and things. But Dragonlance just felt like it's already been, like, oh, it's been done. It's been done for whatever reason. And that could easily have been the fact that was us at the time, right? Creative to a point, but high school, early college, it just wasn't, we didn't know what to do with it, you know? And perhaps now if I were to go back and do it again, I'd probably have a damn good time with it. You know, reread some of my books and stuff for my first edition and go, ooh, I have an idea. This would be a really good adventure. But at the time, we had a hard time with it. And I think it just came down to, like I said, we felt like we were doing bad pastiches of the actual novels and stories that were already told. So anyway, there you go.
Yeah, I don't think you're alone in that.
No. And for whatever reason, I never played the actual Dragonlance modules that walk you through it. You know? We never got into it. I knew people who had them, read them, but I personally don't know anyone who played them. A listener out there probably raising their hand saying, dude, I totally did that. I just don't happen to know anyone who did.
So I think the problem I have with Dragonlance specifically, and we'll get on with the episode because this isn't the whole thing we're going to talk about in this, but because we brought it up, I think it has to do with the books and where everybody went is everywhere you would want to go, but they've already gone there.
Yeah.
So somebody would say, well, Star Wars has played itself out. There's, 6 plus 9 episodes and there's different planets, but there's a lot more. Like you can
go
to different planets.
Man. There's a lot of stuff.
It's a galaxy, right? There's a lot of
shit out there, yeah.
And even if it doesn't exist on a galaxy map of Star Wars, doesn't mean you can't just plop it there. And you could do the same in Dragonlance. But the problem is like the main places to kind of check out and explore have already been explored by the heroes of the Lance in some capacity or another.
And I know some people have said and continue to say the same thing about the Forgotten Realms. There's tons of Forgotten Realms novels back in the heyday, the 90s and shit, when TSR was a thing and they overpublished and there's shit tons of stuff. And they did the same with Dragonlance. There was a fuck ton of Dragonlance novels that were of questionable quality for a very long time. But anyway, it is what it is. Actually, oddly enough, the topic of Dragonlance kind of plays into what we're going to talk about today. So I'll stop. Let's go into Random Encounter, huh? Let's move.
Yeah, let's go into Random Encounter. All right, Random Encounter. Segment of the show where we field comments, voicemails, emails, and things from our forums. Very brief one this week. We didn't comb a lot. We didn't get a lot of feedback, probably because last week I didn't drop an audio show because Brett was out. But we had one that carried over from DM Kojo that might take a little bit because he's posing some questions. So
go for it, man.
All right. So DM Kojo emailed us a couple weeks ago and says,
the fact that he emailed us and didn't leave us a voicemail is worth noting.
That's true.
No, this is cool. Kojo's a good dude, so this is good to see.
Greetings, BSers. I saw this survey on Facebook and thought it was cool to get a snapshot of a person's gaming history. I have listed my responses below, but I would love to hear Sean and Brett's answers to these questions too. All right.
Okay.
So I'll pose them to Brett, and I might weigh in too.
You got to answer too, man. These are easy.
And if you're in the chat, feel free to throw it in there. The first RPG I played was Brett.
First edition Advanced Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, that was mine too. First edition AD&D. The RPG that I have played the most in my life is
To this point, I would have to say Vampire the Masquerade because I played that hard for like 15 years.
Brett was a goth.
Yeah. No, that was second edition AD&D would be a close second because of the played that super heavy. But man, when I got into the White Wolf stuff, that was it. It was Vampire and White Wolf games for 15 years straight. So anyway, that'd be me. What about you?
I don't know. I mean, I'd have to say AD&D, but that wasn't a long time. Like it wasn't. I mean, I didn't play it for 10 years straight.
Yeah,
you
basically missed second edition.
I had it. We might have played a little bit of it, but we didn't get so deep into it. And then we did put like Fastest Star Trek and Top Secret in when I was a kid too. So that broke up that AD&D, term. Maybe it's 3.5 Pathfinder. I don't know.
Played a lot of that. I did play a lot of that too, but not as much as I did Werewolf.
The RPG that I currently play the most is...
Currently play the most. Huh. If I look through this last calendar year, I'd have to say 5e for this year. With a strong second of... I wouldn't even say a strong second. I bounced a lot. Running 5e, running World of Darkness, running Delta Green, kind of bopping between different things. But 5e has been a constant throughout the 2020 year for me. So I would say currently, looking at the last year here, and that we're in December, yeah, I'd say 5e has been the one that's been really kind of my constant, my regular one through the year. How about you?
Probably 5. Well, see, I ran Tomb of Annihilation, but that was 8 hours a month. So I guess that maybe 9 or 10 hours a month.
But you played a bunch with
for
Doc
a couple
and
of
the
years
guys too with 5e.
Played what?
You played with Doc in that team, didn't you? When you did,
we
5e?
did. We did play a little bit of Storm's King Thunder. Yeah, I would say probably 5e. If you compared all of them together. I should also mention, like Kojo said, his first was Redbox Basic D&D. His RPG that he played the most in his life was second edition AD&D. The RPG that he currently plays the most is DCC.
I honestly like the fact, Sean, that this is just maybe patting us on the back here. I like the fact that we're like, what are we playing the most? Huh? Because we're playing different stuff, and I think that's kind of cool. Right? That's kind of neat.
Yeah, I don't really want to say... I don't want to sit there and go, oh, it's the only thing I play.
Yeah, no, we bounced between a number of different things. But like I said, I think 5e has been the most consistent thing throughout the year for me. So, all right, what's next?
The RPG that I have never played but would like to play is... Kojo said Paranoia.
I think I'd say Pendragon. That's on my list.
That's piqued my curiosity. I haven't read much about it, but I know a little bit.
Yeah.
But I know it's quite a bit different.
Something
game.
about the difference in chivalry and knighthood and just really getting into the social aspects and just fantasy, but it's a totally different bent. I think it'd be interesting.
Yeah, I wonder how much you could use it to play like a Game of Thrones intrigue.
I don't know.
Medieval game. I don't know.
I'd have to read it. Anyway, like I said, I haven't read a damn thing yet.
I would say RPG that I have never played but would like to play it's got to be Cold Shadows. Like it's still itching at me. I still want to play it. I still want to get a mission together.
I think it'd be a good one.
And I still want to run it for some BSers that are interested, knowing that I've never run it. That or Feng Shui.
I'd be more interested in Cold Shadows.
Yeah.
That one scratches my itch better.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
The RPG that I used to play a lot and wish I could play again is, and he says, first edition AD&D.
So I am running that. I would say that. I pulled out a couple of them. Middle Earth I pulled out recently. Honestly, when I used to run, I played a lot and I wish I could do again. Back in the day, it was the basic, the red box stuff. That and the BX and the red box, we kind of combined some of that stuff. That was a lot of fun. And I've convinced my kids that after I'm done with the Middle Earth game, I'm going to run that for them. because I think it'll be fun. But yeah, I always had a lot of fun with that. I played the hell out of it. I really did. Yeah, I wish I could do that more. I just don't have the time. But I didn't need to make the time, I guess. How about you?
I'm kind of thinking fast as Star Trek. I've got the books still. I've got everything, and I even think I've got a module or two.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a percentile-based system career character gen. So I don't know. I mean, it's played a lot of. I mean, I could tell you what I've played a lot of, and I don't want to play, which is like AD&D. I don't have any ambition to. I actually told Brett, "Hey, Brett, I'm going to get rid of my AD&D books."
I'm like, I'll take them. I'll take them all. What do you want for them? I'll take them.
The only reason I'm holding on to the damn things is because it's the first books I probably ever bought for the hobby.
Just telling you, whenever you're ready, I'll take them.
I'll let you know. All right, next one he asks or saw on Facebook. The RPG release that I am most eagerly anticipating is, and he says, X-Crawl Classics from Goodman Games.
So I'm going to be selfish. My PIP conversion for Streets of Avalon, it's just me being me. You're asking Brett. That's what I'm going to say, because I'm really interested in going through that with the Encoded crew. I think it's going to be fun. I've been doing more reading and checking things out, making some notes, preliminary stuff. So after, come January, February, I can start to really kick into it. But I'm excited about doing it. I think it'll be fun. How about you, man?
I don't know, because I don't know what's going to be released. That I don't have like a, hey, that's on my target list, or I don't have a Kickstarter.
I am actually looking now at games like Vaesen by Free League, or Symborum, their fantasy one. They're kind of dark fantasy. I've been eyeballing both of those.
What about Dune?
I don't know enough Dune. I've yet to read the novel. I need to read it. It's on my list, right? Yeah. That I need to read Dune. For God's sakes, how could I not read that damn book?
You've never read Dune?
No, I never read Dune. I was never a big sci-fi guy. But I'm like, you know what? I need to pick that sucker up because it's interesting. There's a lot in it that I'm pretty sure I'd love. But I don't know. The only the Warfare, from Matt Colville, the last Kickstarter he did, I've got released. That's coming to me.
Twilight 2000. That would be the one.
I didn't get in on the Kickstarter, but it would be interesting when it lands. I'm interested in it. I just don't, from eagerly anticipating, I don't have anything that I'm like, ooh, I gotta have it. You'd asked me this earlier, I just said my Icewind Dale Rime of the Frost Maiden, because I went, full Beetle and Grimm on that. So I was super jacked about that. I still am, but I don't have, man, there's just nothing recently like, ooh. I just, nothing's really got me jazzed. I don't know.
Well, part of that question is you got to know what is about to come. And then based on that, are any of those of interest? Like if you don't know what's coming, that question's going to be kind of thrown out the window. Yeah. The last one, the RPG that I never played as a kid, but I play now is, he says, first edition Metamorphosis Alpha.
Mine was called Cthulhu. That was the one that went around me, and I heard about it, but by the time I got to college and tried it, I'm like, interesting. I bounced off of it a little bit in college, and then I got into it kind of at the tail end of college. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell have I been missing? So, yeah, I love that game.
Yeah. Call of Cthulhu, I would probably have to say the same thing for me. It was a big part of the hobby at that time, way back, and I never got into it until in the last 4 years, maybe. I think Brett probably Royce ran the first game for me.
I ran Trail of Cthulhu for you guys, but
that's right.
Similar, but different.
Yeah.
Cool, man.
I guess that would have to be it. So thanks, Kojo. Thanks everybody for participating in that. If you're sitting in your car or walking your dog, listen to that. Name the ones you've brought up in this and send them to us. We'd be interested to know.
I think in the spirit of us being very introspective the last dozen or so episodes, man, I think it's interesting sometimes to look back, where you came from, what you played, what you've been interested in. And it's interesting to me sometimes when I think about the things that are just constants through my hobby, my personal exposure to the hobby. D&D is always there. Call of Cthulhu now is a regular piece. the World of Darkness stuff keeps coming up for me again. Either New World of Darkness or some variation on that theme. But some of that shit just keeps popping up. Other things I dabble in, but there's certain pieces I've started to kind of look at the gaming shelf and like, what am I grabbing all the time? What are we always playing? And what do we have the most fun playing? We don't ever seem to really get sick of. And, the stack isn't that high. If I just took the core rulebooks, it's not super thick. And it, like I said earlier, I'm proud of the fact that, Sean, you and I bounce off. We play different. You ran Mothership. I ran Trail of Cthulhu. Hey, I ran Warhammer First Edition. Hey, you did this, doing the different things that we've been into and whatnot. But it's interesting, kind of the through line in my hobby career. What's always been there? What am I always using? So
here, I'm gonna change the answer to that last question.
Yeah?
Yeah. The RPG that I never played as a kid, but I play now is Star Wars. I never played West End Games Star Wars when it was out. I owned it, and I never played it as a kid. I never played it. We always had it. I don't know why we never played it, honestly. And I still have it. I bought it. I've got the original.
Because you've been a Star Wars fan for way back, man, too. That's kind of...
I've been a pretty big Star Wars fan. I mean, the group I hung with were bigger Star Trek nerds.
Okay, that could have been it.
Yeah, but I'm like, that's got to be the one. Because I've played D20, I played Saga, I've played FFG. So.
I went through a Marvel superheroes phase where that was like what we played.
Phaser Rip?
For a long time. Yeah, like, holy crap. I think back and I'm like, man, we had like the 3-ring binders with all the good guys, bad guys, and oh my God, all this shit. Man, it's crazy. Anyway, let's move on.
All right, let's get to the main topic. All right, Brett.
All right. So a while back in the forums, back on November 20th, to be precise, of 2020, the warden, Mr. Todd Crapper, said he posed a question. Excuse me, said, is D&D built for team play? I'm going to read through his little post here. And he said, really, this can apply to a bunch of different games. Well, let's focus on the granddaddy. Is D&D mechanically built for team play? You roll initiative as an individual and play out a series of rounds with individual turns. Not all classes are built to provide benefits to characters other than themselves. For example, the rogue is all about themselves and doesn't have a single class ability that helps someone else. The only means to mechanically help someone is to sacrifice your actions to give someone else a boost. For example, you can provide advantage on a skill check, but that's your action for that round. You don't roll dice to contribute, you just say you're helping, and that's it. Narratively, however, the game is about a party of adventurers banding together to thwart evil. Aside from some class abilities, the mechanics don't seem to match the intent of the game as written. Players have to actively make that happen by the choices they make at the table. Now, if you ran a D&D game like your mercenaries, rather than heroes who are struggling to work together and need to forge that cooperation over time, the mechanics start to line up better. But that's a kind of hack, not exactly as written. This is my theory, says Todd. It's very likely based from my own experiences. So I'm curious to get others' takes on this. Do you think D&D is mechanically built as a team game or as a group of individuals working together, and does it matter? So a lot of really good, I've got a link in the show notes to the forum post. If you go to our forums, is D&D built for team play? Look it up. It's really good. Old School is in there, has some really good points. Huskarl's in there. The Warden pitches in some more. Laramie gets in. Pure Mongrel's got some great insight. Let's see. Good grief. Well, Jared Rasher's in there. Got some good perspectives. Good grief. Who else we got? Rory, Mongrel, Warden. Got just a bunch of good. Gabe, me. Not that I'm the smartest guy in the room, but there's a lot of really cool feedback in there. And I read it and I've reread it a few different times. And I came. It was interesting. One of the coolest parts about this. I think a couple people said this. I'm going to call this one out here. I'm going to mispronounce the handle. Ekodoken mentioned.
He's in the chat.
All right, so Ekodoken says, I think a hard, fast yes or no to this question is the wrong answer, which I thought was, a lot of us were bandying about that term or that fact earlier in the thread. It was really cool. But I got to say, just before Sean and I start digging into it further ourselves, good examples, great stuff. Isaiah was chipping in. I love the fact that nobody, if if this were RPG Net or if this were earlier in the board days, somebody would have called somebody else a motherfucker. Someone would have said, "You're a prick. I hate your mom. Your girlfriend's ugly." It would have gotten ugly really fast. Everybody here, if somebody said something and like, "Hey, man, that seems like," you're like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, that's not what I meant. I'm talking about this." Okay, cool, dude, and move on. It was great. I love this because everybody's like, "Oh." At one point, if somebody was like, "Hey, that seems kind of dismissive." No, I'm not trying to be dismissive. Let's talk about this. Let's just hang this out. It was really cool. So from me and Sean to everybody in our community, props for being grown-ups, quite frankly, because like any other hobby, you can find a pack of jerks out there somewhere that just won't talk or are being assholes about stuff. And I think everybody here was chipping in, trying to give an opinion, a position, defending, changing opinions. It was just, I love the thread. I think it's really good. It's a great example of, I think, how cool you all have helped to make the community for us. So thank you. I want to say that.
So,
all right.
So thank you. I agree with Brett on that very topic. Thank you for all being civilized. So we covered how to be like being civilized on forums. And so if you like this show, go ahead and catch us live here.
So, Sean, I post out. You didn't post out there. I put out, this is kind of Brett's thought.
I was afraid.
You were afraid.
It's just too intellectually stimulating. I didn't feel I was
too much
going to. Yeah, my ums and ahs and likes wouldn't have done justice.
Sean had a post up there. It just said, "It depends,"
highly intellectual,
and he left it there for a week, and then we finally just deleted it. One of the admins went, "That's garbage." Deleted it. So, Sean, do you want me to read mine, or do you? What do you think? What do you think of when you saw that, when you read through this a few times? What's your thought on this? And I gotta say, one of the pieces I really like that Todd threw out at the beginning does it matter? Right? That was a kind of a tailing question. The last question he asked in his original post was, "Is it there? Do we need it? And it doesn't even fucking matter. I mean, is a thing you gotta have." So, what do you think, Sean? Do you have a gut reaction to that question, or what's your opinion here?
Does it matter if it's no?
Is D&D built for team play? Let's just go right for the big question.
Is D&D built for team play?
Yeah. Do you think it is?
I think it is definitely it is required that, not required, but it is encouraged to be a collaborative game.
Yeah, I would say that. Yeah. Yeah.
Because I read everybody's responses and I'm like, okay, yeah, I see that one. Oh, I don't know.
So I
don't know if that answers the question, because
I think it kind of does. I guess the other piece here before I read my chunk. Do you think it matters
whether it's team or collaborative?
Whether it's built for team play. Do you think it matters for? Let me ask it this way: would D&D for you, Sean Kelly, be better if there were mechanics that supported team play, like as the mode to play the game?
Would it
make your enjoyment of the game better?
That's hard to answer, only because the way that some people have pointed out the examples of it not being team play are things that, I mean, I've played Savage Worlds, and Pure Mongro's a big Savage Worlds guy, and he pointed out some of the details in Savage Worlds and how he says, because Savage Worlds facilitates these things, it's more team play based than D&D. Rules as written, some of those things. And while I will agree with him in that capacity, I haven't sat down and said, oh, I've played D&D like this, and then I've played D&D like this, or like that. And that way has been more team based. And the way it's been team based is that a lot of the actions that everybody takes contributes to the team, overall team as a whole. Where this, kind of as it's written and its rules are now, some will say it does not. Does that make sense? Right? Everybody following me?
I am. this is a horrible side segue type of thing, but it feels similar to me. I was talking to my buddy Nick. He was helping me unload my moving truck.
Love that guy.
He's a good dude. Ex-Army. They're good people. So we're sitting there, taking a break, and we're bullshitting about games and whatnot. And he was talking about how, because he's working on a game system he wants to work on. He mentioned this back. One of his letters to his number back when I said I was building a thing. He said it's kind of interesting when you start working on stuff like that. You try to decide, what do I have to overtly state? What do I have to build a mechanic to support? And so forth. And I said, what's kind of interesting? And I explained to him my concept of what I think is, I kind of call them toolbox games. And I think D&D is one of those. And I said, take Night Witches, for example. He'd never heard of it. I said, so Night Witches, you're playing female Russian pilots during a world war, and you're dropping shit like railroad ties, bombs, boxes of nails. I mean, you're basically a nighttime air raid, pitch black, against the Nazis. I said, can you play that game and be a Russian male officer? You could make it do that. However, it is not, to the best of my knowledge, based on, I've never played or read, but the people I've talked to have said it is designed for X. Everything about it supports this thing. If you try to crack that and decide that you want to be a German sympathizer who partners with the Night Witches, blah, 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 it's not... It's built so it's about the Night Witches. That's what it is about. It's not about other things. And this concept, the more you and I talked here and offline about your Curse of Strahd game, about different theories of, well, that's not D&D to me. This is my D&D. This is this. This is this. It really enforced the fact to me that D&D is a toolbox and it can be used in lots of different ways. And I think it's a blessing and a curse, right? So in the forum, Old School had a really good list, this plethora of, I'll kind of parse myself out here, of team goodies and rules that he had. Like, hey, here's a list of skills and powers and spells and things that help people. Some of them may or may not have purely mechanical game status that enforce team play. And by that I am saying is that there's no overt mechanic in 5e that I can find that says if you cast a spell, provide help, or do some other team-focused stuff, you and or your team get a bonus reward, etc. There's nothing overtly that says something that really cool, right? In Dungeon World, if you satisfy a bond, if you change something, there's impact. It's baked right in there, man. That's a piece. Bonds and flaws in 5e, whatever. They're kind of there. Use them or not, right? We've talked about that. I think, the implied impact built into healing spells that help the whole team, help actions, that help you accomplish something, tell me that the designers, trying to quote myself here, that while the designers didn't specifically build in a mechanical benefit necessarily to enforce and encourage players who choose to do or use these team impacting things, the simple existence of these things mean that thinking or acting for the benefit of the team is an important feature. If it did have mechanical tools that enforced it, or said whenever your PC acts in a team-focused way, a bonus happens. And if you don't, there's a punishment. Like if you act selfishly, a bad thing happens, right? That's another way, negative reinforcement. It's strongly implied, but it's only implied. And I think the reason it is only implied is because there's so many different ways to play it. You can play Peace, you can play 5e, first edition, any version of D&D with a pack of selfish cutthroat bastards who are out for themselves. And I know people, I've played that. I played Streets of Avalon game using Pathfinder, D&D, GURPS, and it was a pack of thieves. They're all very selfishly out for themselves, and they would snipe at each other, undermine each other. It was just the way they did it. There are no mechanics that were built in to any of those systems that I was aware of that enforced this is a good way to play. And if you didn't do it the quote-unquote right way or the way that the game wanted you to play, you were punished or a penalty in some way. And I know perhaps penalty might be a strong word in that space, but that's what I think about. When I think about D&D, I think it needs to be implied that team play is a form of D&D. Everyone tends to think it's the form of D&D, but there's a lot of different ways to play it because it's a toolbox. That's how I see it. Does that any of that ring to you, Sean, or do you think I'm crazy?
Kinda and yes.
Kinda and yes. Okay, good. We're back. But at least we're back to square one. That's good. I mean, do you think I'm right, or do you think I'm off, or what is that? I threw a lot of shit at you there, man. What do you think?
Yeah, I see the D&D component. You emphasize D&D being a toolbox quite a bit.
Yeah.
And while I do understand that perspective, I don't know if I lean on it as hard as a toolbox as you do.
Why not?
Because I would see something like a toolbox as maybe like a supplement, like that would allow different things, like different tweaks to the game itself. And you could do that in 5e. You could take the Dungeon Master Guide, go through, hey, here's some really cool options. You can put in lingering injuries and all that.
But yeah, like Curse of Strahd. Curse of Strahd is a way to play D&D that's not the same as Storm King's Thunder. It's not the same D&D, dude.
But what is not the same D&D? I think that's a feel, right? Gothic horror versus slaying giants. I think that's two completely, but I don't think that.
But it's still Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, it's both still D&D.
And that's why I say it's a toolbox. Like your buddy in your Curse of Strahd games, like, well, this isn't D&D to me. D&D to me is being more heroic. Define heroic. Oh my God, define the definition of the word define. I mean, we could get in this weird noodly Mobius strip of hell, but
yeah, that's what this shit's all about, man. Wankery.
Wankery. So I guess that kind of leads me to the other question, like for Todd, that Todd asked at the very beginning, is does it matter? Right? And I think, because he says, do you think D&D is mechanically built as a team game, or is a group of individuals working together? I would say it's built so that you could do, quote unquote, whatever you want. You could do both. You could build a very optimal group of people that are always working together in the most optimal way possible to survive and focus and help each other. You could also work as a group of individuals working together. You could be individuals who hate each other. All these different variations. But his last question, and does it matter? I think it does. Unless you really want that in it, I don't think it matters.
Well, no, it doesn't have to. You can easily flippantly say it doesn't matter because it might not matter to you, but it might matter to somebody else. Does it matter in order to play the game? I don't know. I mean, look, 4E, I didn't have a chance to play. Folks that have say that was more team-based because you had to probably rely more on the others in the party. Great. Because Pathfinder had team feats in the Advanced Player's Guide or something outside of the core rulebook, but not in the core rulebook.
Correct.
I don't think. Right? It came later. Yeah. But you could, as a fighter, take a team-based feat that would apply to like everybody. Everybody didn't. I don't think everybody had to take the same team feat, as long as whatever class it applied to took it. And most of the times it was a fighter, because the fighter could say, I'm gonna take this one, and every time I'm in 5 feet of everybody, they get this thing or whatever.
You know, I think you're right. If I flippantly say it doesn't matter, that's kind of callous. What I think, it's also not necessarily true, because it's a flippant answer. I think my real answer, because what you just said there tripped this in my head, is that what matters to me is that different types of play are available. So what I don't like about certain, this is going to sound really harsh, but boutique game experiences that are very much like it's a game about this specific thing, this specific event, and this specific feel. A very heavily, curated experience. I want to have the flexibility to have different experiences with games. Even if that's one of the things I like about D&D for me, is I can have a Avalon dark, gritty city campaign. I could also play Dragonlance, which is not Avalon at all. Or I could play Forgotten Realms, which is neither one of those two things. Or I could play Dark Sun, or whatever, right? I like the fact that. So I guess I should actually say that my answer to Todd is that does it matter? It does, that I want it to be open, not nebulous, but I want the options in my D&D so that I can do different things with it. So that when Sean decides to run Curse of Strahd for me, I can say, cool, what are you going to do to really help? What's your brainchild, Sean? I want lingering injuries. I want this and this. Good, I'm in. I like all that stuff. I'll do it. Let's go for that. I'm not going to argue with you about it because I want you to have the leeway within that toolbox or dials or whatever you want to do, so you can turn the lingering injuries up, take off the fact that long rests don't help you, or whatever it is you want to do. I want that stuff there. I think that's cool. So for me, that is part of D&D. I want that to be there. I don't want it to be a curated one mode of play only. I don't want that.
Well, one could argue, quite convincingly to me anyway, that when you say, well, Dragonlance, Streets of Avalon, Eberron, and Curse of Strahd as an adventure, as a setting piece, where Jeff says, well, that's not D&D, man. I'm a hero. I start out as hero. I'm first level hero, and that's the way it should be. So if you're going to take me into Curse of Strahd, that's who I am in Curse of Strahd. And if you say, no, Sean, or no, Jeff, you can't do that because I'm trying to create a gothic feel, a more gritty feel, and everybody in that campaign is going to be limited to being just human. And I'm going to have lingering injuries, and I'm going to turn up that to 11, and you're healing, a short rest is going to be a week, a long rest is going to be a month, that kind of stuff. Somebody could say, well, then why are you playing 5e, man? Because I could play Avalon, and I could play Eberron and all those and use 5e, and I could play in Jeff's frame of mind in all of those. And Jeff could be absolutely correct in saying, look, man, this is what 5e is. It's about this. And by you futzing with it, you're actually not... I mean, yes, you could take things out of the DMG and apply it and homebrew it and all that other crap. But in essence and at the core, he may say, that's not 5e then. You're taking 5e and you're manipulating it and turning it into like OSE or some other type of game that facilitates what you want in the setting when you run Curse of Strahd.
I would say that I can't find anything very specific from the creators, from Gygax on, up or down, whichever direction you want to take the timeline, that say this is the only way to play D&D. Unless, actually, Gygax did back in one point during his more curmudgeonly days in the old Pages from the Sages type of thing in the Dragon magazine. But throw that out. Ed Greenwood would say, why are you doing that? That doesn't make any sense. Other people who've designed that game are like, well, you can play it that way. Well, why you're not playing it that way? There's no right or wrong way. That's silly. Are you having fun?
I wouldn't say right or wrong.
Good. Oh yeah, you are, because that's what I'm using Jeff, right? So I'm not here. I'm not here to argue with Jeff.
Poor Jeff. We use him for example all the time. Yeah.
So person X,
probably hate my guts by this point.
Mr. J. Let's just call him Mr. J for
right.
So Jeff says that's not D&D. He's telling you you're doing it wrong. You're not playing D&D. You're breaking it, making it something else. That's not D&D. You're doing it wrong. And that is a piece that instinctively to me makes me do the double finger salute. I'm like, no, fuck you. No, don't tell me what to do. Right? I'm not playing it wrong. I'm playing it differently. And as soon as the back of the DMG or any other splat book says, hey, or this adventure says, hey, here's some ways that you are playing D&D, but in Curse of Strahd. And we've had this conversation with Christian Serrano too around like Eberron. Is it actually better in Savage Worlds because of the type of setting it is? I have not played enough in Eberron. I played like one session in Eberron, and then the campaign I was going to be in fell apart. So I don't know, but I could see an Eberron game being run very well either way. But I think one of the reasons that there is a plethora of different game systems out there, and not one that says, this is for Gothic horror, and this is for this, and this is for this, this is for space opera, this is for hardcore space, they don't exist that way. You know what I mean? What?
I think there are better games that facilitate things better. They may not be.
No, totally do. They're absolutely totally do.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I don't think it's not right or wrong or anything like that.
I
agree.
I think so. I guess what I'm doing is I'm rejecting that premise. So
but somebody would say the first thing they're going to say.
Stop. So you're saying you want to facilitate the type of play, and for you as a player, a better way to facilitate that type of play would be to use Savage Worlds. Would be to use this. Yeah, because that would really get me in the mood. Fine, we'll use that mechanic. I'll drop that rule in there. Done. You can. That's the downside of the toolbox game, like D&D. It does a lot of different things. It's a jack of all trades and master of none.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't go as far to say that. I mean, I would go more on like GURPS or something along those lines. Well, you know what I'm saying. Like,
no, I'm with you.
You know, take a generic universal role-playing system.
Fair. Yeah.
and say, you know, try to make it everything and nothing.
Basic role-playing, you know, little Call of Cthulhu stuff.
If I were to run into somebody on the street, a BSer who has not tuned into the forums, well, actually, and hasn't listened to our show, I don't know why they would be a BSer at that point. Yeah. But if I said, hey, I got this thing.
So you ran to Wayne Humfleet, loves us, supports us, doesn't listen to us, and pay attention to what we're doing. Okay.
Exactly.
So
Wayne Humfleet. Yeah. So I bring up the Curse of Strahd situation, say, I want to run Curse of Strahd, but I've got some players and I want to nerf it down. I want to bring it down, you know, only humans, you know, kind of mess with the rest, lingering injuries. I don't want the 3 death saves. I want, you know, I want to crank up the lethality. Yep. Or the mortality, maybe a little bit, potentially. I want it to be more of a thinking game and not everything is a nail and you're a hammer in its combat. And they go, great. And I go, but I don't, you know, it's 5e. And they go, well, then why are you running 5e?
Why don't you play? Why aren't you running something else?
Right. That's what they're going to say. And I don't think that's an invalid response. It may irk some people like, well, you know, everybody's suggesting a different game. And Brett would say, oh, you could just do that.
Yeah, of course you can.
Come on, you D&D. It's a toolbox.
Exactly.
And so that I think there isn't any wrong answer in this discussion.
And even within the forum thread that's called on a couple different times, there is no saying yes or no, right or wrong is probably the wrong answer. And you're right, Sean. I will admit you're right. If the saying jack of all trades, master of none is too strong, you're right. That's too strong. Yeah, you got. Yes. I'll give you that one. I'm tired from moving, so
that's
I'm
okay.
not on my game.
I don't think it's wrong to have a very strong opinion.
You know, I think that the thing is that one of the reasons that the beautiful part of the golden age of gaming that we live in now is that somebody says this, that, or the other thing. You're like, you know what would be really cool? I like Blades in the Dark. Blades in the Dark would make a great Curse of Strahd system, and here's why. Somebody out there is very passionate about some system as to why it would be really good for the setting. And some of the D&D adventures are very setting driven. I've talked about this.
But why? The question would be why. I'll interject. Like why?
Why? Because, the setting seems to have a look, a feel. I really want to mechanically enforce that with benefits and penalties, and I don't want to do a lot of work. And this already does it for me. Ta-da. Yeah.
And we come around for a circle.
But what's interesting, though, is we've also talked about this, is that there are a number of people, and we know a guy named John, who played Pathfinder. He plays Pathfinder in 5e, and that is it. There's no other game. Those are the only 2 games they play. They moved off of Pathfinder, tried 5e, and that's all they play. And he's a contractor where I work, so I still know John, and that's all he has played for the last 10 years, or however long he's been out. That's it. That's all he's doing. He's happy as hell. It doesn't bother him. Sean had mentioned other games. He's like, never heard of that. I don't know that one either. Yeah, I don't know a lot about games. All I know are these ones. Because that's what Game Master brought to the table. There are gamers out there like that. Right? And they're also gamers who are like, look, I like D&D. I welcome the challenge of playing D&D differently. And again, no right or wrong answer here, as you're beating me with, which is absolutely right for you to do so, is that some people want to have the challenge. Like if you told me you're going to run 5e for Curse of Strahd, but you're going to do this, that, and the other, you'd be like, let's see how it works. Let's do it, man. I'll get in on that. Or if you came to me and said, what I'm going to do, I'm going to run it with Savage Worlds, you'd be like, let's see how that works. Oh, I'm going to do that, but I'm going to use Call of Cthulhu rules, or I'm going to use something. I'll try it. I'm pretty open for that stuff. Not everybody is. But I think the key...
Dude, we're getting way off.
Like, totally off, dude.
Yeah.
I think when it comes to here, like, if team play is the thing that is really important to you, right? If team play means to you that you have benefits, penalties, all this stuff geared around the fact that your group is operating to basically get the most of the rules in the most interesting way possible, even if failure or a quote-unquote penalty or punishment is still interesting, right? Insofar as, you broke a team pact, that causes negative influence into the team, and the clock turns and the shifts, whatever mechanics or systems you want for that. If that's important to you to have mechanical system-based drivers and wheels and gears to turn all that stuff for you, yeah, I could see why you would look at D&D and say, you know what, it doesn't have enough for me. It doesn't, I'd have to bolt on this other stuff to really drive this feature I want, which is what you're talking about, like Curse of Strahd. To make it do what I want it to do, I have to bolt on some stuff to make it feel the way I want it to make it really sing. And is that work you want to do, and is that work your players are willing to do with you? I don't know.
But we're kind of mishmashing, right?
Yeah, like, this is a weird topic.
We'll talk about team, and then other than it's like, and the system that you want to play that mishes in with the setting. It's like, wait a minute, let's bring the team thing back.
Yeah.
So going back to team, one of the things that Old School mentioned was the what do you mean? You know, he says no class is an island. During character gen, don't players always ask, who's our healer? How many tanks do we have? Some classes do buff, some classes do heal. And that's right, but it's all on the independent class. And I think that's what Todd was kind of poking away at him about.
And it's also dependent on the player. Who's the healer? I am. You ever play with me?
I heal everybody.
You ever play with a guy who goes, I'm not healing you? Why? You're chaotic neutral. I'm lawful good. Fuck you. Last time we went to the church, and I wanted to donate money, and you didn't, I'm not healing you.
Yeah. I mean, let's face it. This is the one thing I got to say. In the team discussion and in this conversation specifically is, yes, it is a collaborative game. Yes, it makes sense to come together to overcome obstacles as a group because it's going to be better if you can collaborate and overcome those obstacles.
You have a better chance of overcoming obstacles in the most optimal way if y'all get together and team up.
True, but it's an individually played game. You make one character. That one character is out and has its own motivations, has its own skills and abilities, and only through certain things does it apply in a team-type manner. So if you want to produce a team-type thing, you have to flank. You have to help, assist.
Yes.
Right? It's not anything that is built as part of the mechanics to facilitate it's not like
you don't get your cleric or wizard or spellcaster doesn't get, you cast 5 buff spells today, you get bonus experience points for that.
Correct.
That doesn't happen. You don't get another point of inspiration because you buffed 10 people.
There's no incentive other than maybe if I just cooperate with these jokers, I may live a little longer and get out of this dungeon alive.
Yeah.
Other than that, everybody, yeah, man, where's the treasure? Everybody have a thief that steals stuff that the party doesn't know?
Yeah, there's no experience point benefit to playing as a team. There's none of that stuff.
No, and that's where I think that his approach is the fundamental component of D&D. What do you mean? Of course it's a team game. Whoa, you can't live without being a part of the team. You ever try to adventure as a solo guy? As soon as you get knocked down to 0, you're toast because nobody's going to come over and stabilize you. And then you get to, roll your saves and then you can squash down a freaking potion and then you're good. But now they got sidekicks.
Yeah.
Is it team play? Oh, we got sidekicks now.
And I think some of it, like, and the reason I think we bled over into like the Curse of Strahd and stuff is that because if I want to make D&D have those pieces and parts, it's similar to what you're trying to do with Curse of Strahd. I think that's probably a long way as to how we got here. If I want to beat it up a little bit so that it feels gothic horror, and if I want to beat it up a little bit so that it really enforces team play, like, hey, you helped him, there's a point of inspiration. There's a bowl full of extra D20s in the center of the table. Whenever someone does something really cool, you get to reach in that bowl of D20s and give it to the player across from you or whoever and say, I'm going to give you advantage on your next die roll because that was fucking awesome. You know, I will do whatever, you know, something where you're handing out and you're giving and you're really supporting the team play, right? When the good things happen, the bad things happen, enforcing it in some way. It's not natively there. It's not overtly stated, and there's no overt rule set that says doing these things is, you know, get you a bonus or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And let's even take it back further.
Okay.
The origins of D&D. Like the true, hey, why did Arneson and Gygax come up with this crazy thing called a role-playing game? It's because they were all a bunch of war miniatures players, and they got a lot of people staring at the table, and it was always like a one-on-one thing. And so instead of like, hey, we could get 4 more players at the table if we just gave them one miniature to control, and that would be their role at the table, and that miniature would have certain things they could do that would help other parts of the game. And there became the role-playing game. So it stemmed out of this weird wargaming thing. And, you know, then it was like, okay, you're still an individual. You get certain things to help, but it's still, I mean, I'm sure their intention was, hey, it's a team. You're on this side. It's like a basketball team, man. Yeah, you could be Michael Jordan and carry the team. And, you know, hey, you're going to go to that person all the time. But at the same time, you need all 5 players on the court to
but,
like, make things happen.
You know, the hockey player who leads the league in goals, but also leads the league in assists, he's the dude you want on your team because the team wins when you play well together. The team does really well, you make more money, so on and so forth. But I think there's a key piece that you're making an individual character, and there's nothing on your character sheet, like in Dungeon World, that says, who do you like? Why do you like them? These other people. There's nothing in there that ties you to the other people in the group. There's nothing on the character sheet that says, players, you know, player 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why do you like them? Why do you hate them? Who's your friend? Who saved you from the dragon? None of that is there. You could add it in your bonds and flaws.
Right.
But there's nothing in the random charts in the player's handbook that say you are madly in love with the player to your left. The player directly across from you has wronged you.
And if you play it up or you lean into that or you cut it, you get extra. I mean, a DM could say, well, if you role play it up and ham it up or whatever, then I'll give you extra XP. But again, that's I'm pulling that out of my butt. And
it's a hack, right?
Right?
It's a piece, it's a thing. And that's, again, where I went to the Curse of Strahd example, is to make the team feel, I'm tweaking and manipulating it a bit to do that thing. I'm with you. I think that's true.
Yeah. I mean, in short, is if you said, Sean, you stopped me on the street. Hey, we're here with this stranger here. You ever heard of the game Dungeons & Dragons? Yeah, I played it once, twice. I've got a question for you. I want to answer. Do you think D&D is a team game? Yes, I do. Yeah, because you got to play together and you overcome obstacles, and you can't do it without somebody. And everybody pulls their powers together and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, of course. There it is. Quick answer. Bam. But it's got its shortcomings.
Yeah, you rip the peel off, you go into the depth of the onion. It's not mechanically there. The other component is if you take the team back from the PCs as a team to the players, are you all having fun? And I know some people hate this. Well, fun isn't the only measure, and I still don't fully understand that, because if you're having fun, that's where you're playing. if the group is having fun playing a bunch of bastard PCs who are backstabbing each other constantly, and the only reason they're in the dungeon is because they're forced to, or what, blah, 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 whatever you want. If everyone's having a good time with that, okay. Yeah, they're having fun. And I think if I take team play off the player characters and just look at the players, it's damn near true of every role-playing game at that level. Like, look, if you all sit down and agree that this is how we're going to play, this is the rule set we're going to use, this is the feeling we're going for, it's the session zero shit, yes. But when you have mechanics within it, the idea behind it is, yes, you can pull a Brett, and a lot of other people who are more experienced than me, way more experienced than me. Oh, Sean, you can do this too. You can game master over the top of stuff. You can through force of will and through force of your players, just make shit happen. Yes, you can totally do that. However, if you look at the game from a new player's eyes, say, what's this game about? And you read through it, and you specifically see systems, rules, and little pieces that say, hey, when you help the player across from you who you listed as your best friend, this, that, and the other thing occurs. When you hurt someone who you listed as your enemy, this, that, and the other thing occurs. It enforces a style of play, right? Mechanically doing so. Having things that are helpful in that style of play, powers, spells, and so forth, that's a mode. That's about saying, hey, I've got stuff that supports a mode of play, but it doesn't really mechanically make it, quote unquote, the right way to play it. This game isn't built that that's how you have to do it. Does that make sense? I think that's where we're going.
Yeah, it makes sense, but I don't have to like it.
All right. Are we good?
So if you think D&D facilitates team play.
Yeah, I expect Mongrel, Rory, Todd, Old School to come back and say, God, you two fucking boneheads. What is wrong with you? Can't you read? You know, it honestly, and the other piece to do, if you haven't read the forum piece, I strongly suggest you go there and just bust through it. I think it's a good list of ideas, thoughts, and so forth. And as I stated, there's no saying yes or no flat out. You know, Echo Doken mentioned this. You know, I think a hard and fast yes or no to this question is the wrong answer. If you limit yourself to yes or no, then the answer is an objective yes. Yes, the game is built to be played by a team of players. Use a team of characters to collaboratively achieve their goals. You know, there's a lot of good stuff out there. So anyway, we're done. Let's move on.
If there's a better team game, let us know.
Yeah, absolutely.
Team.
Yeah, absolutely.
Team. All right, die roll. 2 to 4 miscellaneous points gaming and geekery you want to bring to you. I don't think we have one this week. Why am I doing that?
We
I didn't list any.
Oh, we didn't list any. Oh, God.
Pull one out of your butt, Brett.
I don't have. Well, you've already brought up the Margaret Weiss thing, the Dragonlance piece. You brought that piece up, so
I did.
That's about it. I don't have much else, man. I am way behind right now.
What?
Yeah, I know.
Like, what do you got going on, man? What do you got going on?
So for next week, I'm not sure what we're going to talk about yet, Sean. I got a couple ideas. I'm going to bounce them past you.
Cyberpunk.
Yeah, I was thinking about cyberpunk as kind of a concept, setting.
Do you want a cyber?
Yeah.
Punk?
My biggest piece, dude, is with the Christmas holiday coming up in like 3 days. I don't know how much time I'm going to have to read that and so forth. So I just want to make sure I get my act together there. I'm a busy guy.
What are you going to be doing, man?
I'm a busy guy. I'm important. Very busy. Very busy. Got a lot going on. Big things.
Big things.
Big things.
Huge. Just busy beyond belief.
All right.
Can't even believe it. Brett's got an assistant standing right next to him,
yeah,
pointing at their watch.
Yeah, they're just taking notes.
Mr. Blazinski.
Mr. Blazinski, it's time to go.
Your next appointment. You're 3 minutes overdue. This freaking guy. All right, let's wrap it up. All right, we'll figure something out next week. If you, thanks everybody for joining us live during their live recording. This recording of Gaming and BS is filmed in front of a live studio audience. If you see this on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe. Damn it! Why? Because
we told you to. That's why.
That's why we told you to, and that's the only reason you need. Otherwise, you can catch an audio version on this on your favorite podcatcher of choice. Find us, listen to us, consume us, call us, and tell us how wrong we are. We dare you.
We're used to it.
It is right before the holidays. This will
It is.
probably drop right around Christmas. If you celebrate something else during the holidays, well, happy holidays to you. Merry Christmas.
Absolutely.
Kwanzaa, happy Hanukkah, Festivus.
There's a lot of cool Yule stuff going down, so I think our biggest hope is, we've said this for a while since the pandemic, everybody be safe, be healthy. Hopefully, if Game World Con and other things get back together in person, Sean and I are both looking really forward to seeing people again, like get together at the game, hang out with folks again. So stay healthy.
You're
smart.
you're the only people I want to see.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right.
For Gaming and BS, I'm Sean.
And I'm Brett. Good night and good game and all.
This episode of Gaming and BS produced with help from the following BSers: Jared Rasher, Ray Otis, Old School DM, Jason Hobbs, Andy Hall, Roger Braslett, Brett Pazinski, Chris Steele, Larry Hout, Eric Frankhouse, Tony Sugarloaf Baker, Stefan Dragonspawn, Mark Tasaka, Pure Mongrel, CW Mellencamp, Dan LaValle, Craig Huber, Ron Bishop, Old Scoozer Roleplaying, Jim Fitzpatrick, Mark Richmond, Thomas Hook, Sky, Craig, Howard Bishop, Jeff Seifert, Angus, Eric Salzweedel, George Sedgwick, Robert Nemeth, Brian Kurtz, Laramie Wall, Perry Besor, Eric Avia, Andy Olson, John Kayward, Corey Gonzalez, Niall Diamond, Jeff Goad, Brian Rumble, David F. Baylog, Harrigan, Melissa Bashinsky, Henry Newcomb, Eric Tavola, Who's Carl, Mark Sohm, Ghost GM, Mike Hess Jr., Rory Weston, Jim Ingram, Daniel Garrett, Jason Weeb, Dollar Adventure Frameworks, Phil McClory, Jay Plata, Duke and Purple, Isaiah Aries, Christian, Fanta Blacklord, Larry Hollis, Quigley Malcolm, AWOL Trooper, Craig Shipman, Todd Sharp, Orcus Dorcas, Chris Shore, Michael O'Holland, Christopher Lang, Chad Glayman, Josh Wallace, Adam Grochon, Ed Nyes, Corey Welch, Mirko Froelich, Rich Wishan, Joe Swick, Curtis Takahashi, and Aaron Raelia. Hey, happy holidays to you and yours, BSers. If you want to hang out with the crew, head over to gamingandbs.com/Discord, where the conversation's flowing and so's the RPG talk. Thanks, BSers. This has been a Litterbox Studio production.